Let me talk about a new project that I'm working on. And by the way, when I say new project, I have a lot of different work in progress projects. So when you have a lot of projects that are, in the making and not finished, what do? You start a new project. And of course, this is what I'm doing. Well, this is what I started doing because, what I want to do is I have this big thing and I want to turn it into, I want to say cyber deck because that's very trendy and I have seen some very cool cyber deck videos, very, picturesque ones and very nicely detailed, which is something that I definitely not able to do. So I thought that instead of doing something small and slick and, cyber decky, I'm just going to build a field computer in this box. So I purchased this box, which is, I think it's very similar to Pelican case, but I think this is probably cheaper and maybe not that ruggedized, although I think it's fairly ruggedized, but I don't really need it to be ruggedized. And I'm going to turn it into a computer. Well, and a little bit more than a computer. So I'm thinking what I can use this for and what I can put this into it. So this video is mainly going to be like ideas and questions and showing some of the stuff that I already have and some of the things that I have received for this project. So let me start with a couple of things. So obviously I need a computer, and for this I bought this micro PC, which is sort of like a surplus, well, not surplus, but it's probably like an old refurbished PC, and this is exactly what my home server is. So that's nice. I mean, of course you can't just repurpose all stuff, you have to buy something new. So this is new, well, used new, and this is something new. And I've also received something. So I received a Bluetooth keyboard, and this is a, well, sort of like a sponsored review from CZUR. So at some point a little bit later, I'm going to do a review of this keyboard, and I pretty much just designed everything around these bigger components, making sure that the keyboard fits and of course the computer fits. So that's going to be somewhere here. And I also need a screen. And this is probably one of the big repurposed one, because this is a screen from my old laptop, which died a couple of years ago. And I have purchased these LCD driver boards from AliExpress. And it's not really a good quality. I would not really recommend this, but it works. And it has some really funky inputs. You can see it has components input. It has RCA, VGA, HDMI, and it also has a TV tuner. So it actually works with TV, and it's able to pick up some, free broadcasts in my area. So I thought it's actually quite nice, and maybe I can use all these inputs as, special monitors. So I'm planning to route some of these inputs out in the case. So maybe if I need a component input at some point, I can use this, because those are not very common nowadays. And this fits in the top enclosure. So this takes care of the, the computery bits and pieces. And I think if I have some space, maybe here, maybe I can also incorporate a small switch mode power supply. I have these really small ones with a small display. It's hidden somewhere, which I'm not really using. So I think it would make sense to have it here. So if I need to do some voltage, then it's, outside, some variable voltage, I can use that. Of course, it's going to be mains powered. I don't want to put batteries in it because I have so many power stations that I can use. And probably I can use some of this free space around here to make a permanent place for some of my gadgets. So my infrared camera, maybe it can just live here in a small compartment, so I always know where it is, or the same with a Flipper Zero. And the one thing that I use a lot is playing around with Modbus. And I have these I don't know what it's called. It's basically a USB to all sorts of serial, and it has RS-258, and I usually use this to test Modbus devices. So this can be a Modbus test stand as well, and for that I also need power supply to power the device. So again, power supply makes sense. And that's pretty much it. So this is where I am at the moment. I think the space that I have here is sufficient. I mean, I can definitely hide all these bits and pieces, and this comes with a big power supply, so that has to be a space for that. I can probably add a power connector and the power jack here on the side. I can put the RF stuff here, up here, so I can just route the cables out. And I also save the speakers from my old laptop, so it has sound. And that's pretty much it. So it's going to be some sort of like field computer when I need to do some computing, for example in the garden. I don't want to take my laptop outside. I can use this one, and it already has Windows on it, and probably I can install a couple of things like an MQTT server. Maybe I can do a Node-RED, so I have a separate Node-RED instance to test something, and I can just, you know, close it up, put it away, and then I can take it out once I need something. Oh, I have some stuff arrived on AliExpress as well. So these are RCA connectors, and that's the idea at the moment. So if you have any good ideas of what you would build in here, just let me know down in the comment section. Maybe I can consider, I can think about that as well as, you know, a next option or some additional feature that I can add to this device. I was also thinking about some test equipment in here. So I have a USB power, not USB powered, but a small battery powered tester. Let me get you this. So I bought this a couple of years ago. So these are the usual component tester. The only difference is it has an internal battery, so it's nice. But I'm thinking maybe I can just have a compartment for this where it can just sit. So again, I know where it is. I don't have to hunt for this. But probably anything else, this box is going to be busy enough already. So obviously I wouldn't be able to fit here a oscilloscope because that's too big. Maybe I was thinking about some of these DIY signal generators, but I've never used those. So I mean, I can obviously have it, but I don't think it's going to be any good use. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. But the box is nice, and I like the fact that I have something which I can just, you know, close up and then put it away if I don't need it anymore. So if you don't mind, let me use the rest of the video just to review this CZUR Touchboard Pro Bluetooth keyboard. And when I was designing this, I was looking at a couple of different keyboard options. I was considering using a small keyboard because, well, obviously because the size constraints and the, you know, how much place I have available. And originally I thought I'm just going to have a keyboard somewhere here, like a normal wired keyboard, but I realized that this one being really big, I think it's going to be awkward to type up here, not ergonomical. So this, you know, the Bluetooth keyboard just made much more sense, because then you can just, you know, replace it. So I'm thinking just to have some sort of recess up here so that it has a permanent place, but then when I'm using it I can just you know, remove it, or if I only need to type a couple of things or start something, I can still do it here, but then you know, it's just easier to remove. And of course, because I don't really like trackpad, but because the trackpad is included for simpler task, I don't need a separate mouse. But probably if I want to use it for an extended amount of time, I might just use a mouse. And the only other thing which I quite like about this keyboard, as opposed to like a smaller 86 key keyboards, is sometimes you are missing something. So maybe sometimes you're missing the F function keys, or there are keyboards where the numbers are available only with a function key. And the other thing is that the arrow keys, sometimes they are just, you know, put in a weird place and more difficult to access. So for me, these are the things that I do look for, because then I realize that it becomes much easier and much more productive to use keyboards if I have all the rows of the keys, even though, you know, these F keys are smaller and also the arrow keys are smaller. but you get used to, finding this place and then, operating these keys. So that's definitely a big plus, which I sort of only realized once I started using this, as opposed to when I reviewed some of the other options that I was considering for this project. And before we continue, let's just consider this as a use case for a Bluetooth keyboard, which I wasn't really thinking about, but I have here my Samsung phone, and it is connected to my docking station, or port extender, I think is what it's called. So it's connected over USB-C. So I'm using this DeX interface to create this desktop-like experience on an external display, which everything is running on my phone. So I can just, I can just open Chrome, and I can visit a website, I don't know what it is. So yeah, and it works really good. And so using this keyboard is really, really nice. And I realized something actually with this layout is I don't tend to use keyboards because I find it a little bit difficult in a usual laptop layout that the trackpad is just below the keyboard. But here it is, I think it is more natural for me that I can just sort of like maybe use my small finger to operate the touchpad. Sometimes I tend to just grab on the touchpad when I use the arrow keys, but yeah, that's the only, I mean, it's ergonomics, and I have, quite big hands, and obviously this keyboard is smaller than a standard size keyboard, but it's really nice. I just paired it with my phone. It works as a keypad. It also works as a mouse. You can see that I can move the mouse over, and I have some simple gestures. So like with 2 fingers, I can scroll web pages, and there are like tons of other, shortcuts as well, which I haven't really learned, but it's clearly documented in the documentation. So you can see that, of course I can launch additional applications. I'm not really sure what I show you. Actually, I tried. And the other thing is I also have the Android buttons here. So I can use this one to go back to the home screen. Like you have the 3 buttons on Android. So that makes it really easy to use. So if I do maps, then the pinch and zoom doesn't work, but I can definitely, push down and then scroll, and that scrolls the screen around. So that's also quite nice. And actually, I was thinking about buying a USB-C external screen and then, trying this experience, like having a Bluetooth keyboard and the USB-C screen, and use your phone as your main computer, especially when you are traveling, because I just find it easier if I need to do something that I use a bigger screen for certain websites and stuff, but I don't necessarily have to bring my laptop. So yeah, it's really nice, of course, because it's a fairly, powerful Android or Samsung phone. It is very responsive as well. But the whole user interface and how you, control it once used to any desktop environment, it's quite intuitive. It's pretty much the same experience, I would say. And then with these extra buttons, then you can control Android easy. And also you have Windows and Alt buttons that will become quite useful in Windows as well. Let me show you the layout a little bit. I mean, I already mentioned previously, but I just realized how easy it is to use these keyboards, since it has a full row of numbers and also the function keys. So you don't have to use the function button that often. Even though the function keys are smaller, it's still, it's okay. Other than that, it's a very slim keyboard, and the travel of the buttons are not huge, and but you get a proper tactile feel, and obviously it is smaller than normal keyboard, but that's how they managed to fit in this sort of like reasonable size. So this is 33 centimeters, so 13 inches across, and so all the buttons that you would expect is here. The enter is a little bit smaller, but then the backslash is here, and you have Control Alt and the Windows key, and as I said, full directional keys. Probably the only other thing which I did notice, especially with my laptop, is that For me, the control is here and the function is one back. So here it's obviously swapped. So if I'm using this, I'm hitting the function key all the time when I want to do the control. So that's definitely something that I need to get used to if I'm swapping between this and my laptop. I am not a big keyboard aficionado, so I can't really, tell much about these keys. And I mean, I'm using laptops. I'm not really using, real keyboards. So I never really, well, it was a long time ago when I experienced the proper keyboard feel. And this doesn't, feel too much different from my laptop. Maybe it's a little bit stiffer, but that's it. Not a big deal, if you ask me. And on the top, all we have is an on-off button and a USB-C port for cable connection or for charging. And if I turn it around, then you can see the model number, and it says that it has a 500 milliamp hour keyboard, which is charged in 2 hours, and it provides 90 days standby time. But as again, if you're not using it, you can turn it off, and it turns off completely. So here on the left side, you have a couple of indicator buttons. So you have one for the caps lock. So you can see that small green LED. Before that, or sorry, under it, there is a Bluetooth button. So with F1, you go into Bluetooth pairing, and it's just going to flash. And if there is anything wrong with the battery, if the battery is flat, then there is a battery indicator, which also lights up when you are using the USB-C to charge it. And yeah, you have a trackpad, and you can, press on this trackpad, and you have these 3 buttons which are mapped to the Android buttons when you are have it connected to an Android phone. So that's the back, the desktop, and sort of like the app switcher key for the typical Android devices. And I also wanted to give you a comparison to my real laptop keyboard. So I think this is a 14-inch Dell. I mean, obviously I don't have the bigger model, which has the numerical keypad, and that's pretty much the same size as my laptop keyboard with the trackpad included. And so obviously you can see how, well, the buttons are obviously smaller. Probably the spacing feels about right between the buttons, but yeah, they are definitely smaller. But for example, they kept the spacebar bigger than some of the other keys, which that's an interesting touch. Obviously, because they had to fit the arrow keys here. So you have 2 keys, so that takes up a little bit extra space, but at least you have a bigger spacebar, and the function buttons are also a little bit bigger, so it's easier to operate them. But other than that, I think it's a very standard layout. As you can see, they have the control and the function the other way around as the main keyboard. And of course, this is a US layout, and actually this is a UK layout keyboard. And I'm quite happy with this because it is very difficult for me to get any US or UK layout keyboards in Hungary. But because I spend most of the time in UK, and even my Commodore 64 was, not Hungarian layout. Actually, I do prefer either the US or the UK layout as opposed to the Hungarian layout when I use a keyboard. So I specifically ordered this with not a Hungarian keyboard. And finally, I wanted to show CZUR's or CZUR's website. So that's the keyboard thing. So you can see that down on the bottom of the page, you can change your country. So it changes the currency. And as you can see, they have free shipping over 40 countries. And you can order these keyboard or, port pack or webcam or these bookmark. And so spec wise, yeah, you can see the specs here, but I think I mentioned everything. So yeah, 90 days standby time and 2 hours of charging. One thing I'm missing, because I was thinking from this page, or sorry, from this picture, that there are some shortcuts to change between the devices, but actually there is not. So if you are planning to use this keyboard for multiple devices, it is not as convenient as some of the other models where you can assign individual devices to function keys and we quickly switch between them. So you literally have to disconnect from one device so it can be reconnected to another device. So mainly it is designed to be used with a single device. And just wanted to show you this because I never worked with, I haven't heard about this company before, but they have some really cool stuff. I mean, I think this is some sort of, specialized field as in document scanners, which obviously is not something that I'm interested in, but they have all these different document scanners which are good for either presentation or actually scanning. And they also have this interesting webcam, this one, that you can also, you know, rotate. So if you want, you can use it as a normal webcam, but what are the different views? Yeah, so you can, oh, actually not this one. This is the dual webcam, but they have another webcam as well, which you can also do to, yeah, this one. So you can have it as a webcam that shows you, but you can also have it as a document scanner. So it sort of like points down and you can share it on, let's say on a live stream as well. So that's also quite interesting, sort of like a niche device, which I thought it was just, you know, really interesting, as same as these document scanners. I think it's an interesting type of you know, devices, and well, all of them are sort of like visual scanning or visual documentation. Maybe this keyboard is the only exception. Okay, thanks for tuning in to this new project idea video. And I'm also happy that you took the time to listen to this review of this CZUR Touchboard Pro, which I've received for this project. But if you are interested in this device, I'm going to leave purchasing links in the video description. But I think that will be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.